Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another Facebook and YouTube Live. I'm excited because not only is this a Facebook and YouTube Live, it is also a Clubhouse Live today. So for the first time, I'm going live on all three, thanks to Lucia Pavone. So I'm so excited to have Lucia on here. And Lucia Pavone, also known as Luscious Lucia, is a rule breaker, international speaker, and instructor of the art of sensual pleasure. As a somatic sex educator and sacred Tao pelvic practitioner, she is dedicated and passionate about supporting people to embody their sensuality and love their juicy bodies so they can free themselves from shame and traumas and have a sex life worth bragging about. Yes, 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 yes. Um, she she believes that by experiencing the universe through sensual gratification, pleasurable communication, and a woman's orgasm, life has infinite possibilities. And Lucia recently created a course for those who identify as men called Rise of the Divine Masculine, which will be out soon. So we can't wait to hear all about that. Welcome, Lucia. And I am so glad to have those of you who have been on here and who've been watching. You know that I have this live every Wednesday. My goal is to release the stigma and shame on sexuality. So as you're coming on, say hello. Let us know you're here. Say hi. If you're interested in learning about the divine masculine, healing divine masculine, say heal divine masculine. Type that in, masculine. If you define this, if you describe yourself, see yourself as a masculine, you're welcome. If you're see yourself as a feminine woman, it's okay. Everybody's welcome. Let's get on here and let's talk. Welcome, Lucia. So happy to have you here.
Thank you. Ciao, Renee. Thank you so much for having me, hosting me all the way from Brazil. And I'm so honored because, you and I met in Clubhouse and we just started to have such a wonderful, connection, and the web kind of spread, right? It's like Lady Holly and all of these other people that we all got to connect. And it was almost like our own little special, sex educator community here on Clubhouse that has expanded.
Yes.
And so I just feel so grateful.
Yes. So it was so funny. Hello, Sky's the Limit 09. Welcome. And yeah, so we were in Clubhouse, and I don't remember which room, but we were on there. There was a few of us, and we were just having this great conversation. And I remember you would say something, and I was like, that's what I wanted to say. And I'm like, man, like she's saying everything I want to say. What am I going to say now? But there's so much that we could talk about. And so I was like, we're vibing. I could see that we're on that, we're in that same place.
Mm-hmm.
We have similar views, and I loved it. And so I think even way back then, I was like, I'd love to have you on my live. And it just took how many months later to happen?
It's divine time, right? When the
Divine
universe
time,
says
right.
it's time. And I know that one of the things that came up when we were talking about what are we going to do live, back then, I wouldn't have said, let's talk about, healing the divine masculine. I wasn't like ready to share the work I had done in that. There's just so much, there's just so much to do with people who identify as women, that talking about and what, we should probably talk about whether or not, what exactly is divine masculine healing. Are we talking about energy? Are we talking about people who I identify as men? So this is something that we're going to kind of break down tonight. And I know in just a moment, if I'm on by myself right now and you're watching, it's because I know that we're just taking a little sacred pause real quick while Renee takes care of something real quick. And I just want to take a moment to welcome everybody. If you are in the comments, thank you. If you are on Clubhouse, thank you for listening in. So what I was sharing, Renee, was that when we talk about divine masculine, that we're really talking about energy. And tonight, though, we're going to be more specific on people who identify as men, and that's the focus that I was really hoping for, that we could talk about that from a place of balance, right? Like, how do we balance these energies, and then specify it and like tune in and hone in specifically for people who identify as men in general. How does that sound with you?
That sounds great. Well, let me ask you, so even before the whole divine masculine, how did you start working with sexuality?
It's a great
Like,
question.
how did you get into this? Because it's not like you're born and say, this is what I want to do. And I want to, and eventually I'm going to work with healing divine masculine. Like, so how did that come about?
Well, it's interesting. Now I kind of feel like I was born this way and I was born to do this like divinely. I in some ways I'm like, actually, yeah, I was born to do this. But I would say the first like beginnings were where I decided to actually kind of really make this my pathway, was after spending years and years of my own sexual healing. So I had been taking courses in extended orgasm and um,
Mm.
sacred sexuality, communication, tantra. I had been working for quite some time in the birth community. I should rewind just a little bit more. Like I'd had my daughter in 2000, and after 4-day labor, planned home birth, I had a C-section. And during that
4-day labor?
4 days, yes, my midwife
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
"Let's keep going." You know? I was like, I
I
don't
can't even
I was like,
imagine.
"No way, I'm not going to I don't wanna go to the hospital because I felt like I can do this, I really wanted to be at home. But I surrendered to the moment. I did go to the maternity center, and I did finally, after laboring more days there, finally said okay to the C-section. But part of that process was not really realizing what happens when somebody cuts you open. Things happen, like your body um, can have a lot of trauma. And so not only did I have traumatic birth experience, but all those traumas, all those childhood traumas, sexual traumas, all those things that had been part of my my story, my journey came through, and I suddenly felt this intense shutdown of my sexuality, my pleasure. And here I was in this marriage that I loved my husband, and I was like, what the heck is going on here? And I didn't really understand the full spectrum of what I was experiencing at the time. But I know about 3 years after my daughter was born, I decided that it was just time to really address this. I didn't have very much sensation in my genitals, and I was like, what is going on here? And I decided to really embark on my own healing journey. So I started to dive very deep in. I'd already done a lot of spiritual work, and I'd spent years studying Kabbalah and Tarot, astrology in my 20s, for about 5 years. And then prior to that, I'd studied herbal medicine, and I traveled, and so I had this like base of spirituality. And suddenly I realized what was missing was really an exploration of my own sensuality. And so with that, I started taking courses. And at the time, my husband jumped on board with me. We took like thousands and thousands of hours of courses. It felt like maybe hundreds of hours of courses and thousands of hours of actual full, like, I would say, I don't want to say practice because it was, just our way of being, but really spent thousands of hours in a heightened state of orgasm. So um, I know, like extended orgasm. So when you're in that kind of state, it puts you in a hypnagogic state. And what that looks like is, if you've ever taken like mushrooms or a psychedelic, that's kind of the same thing that's happening in your brain when you're in this heightened state of orgasm. And so I didn't actually learn that until years later, when I was hooked up to a cute EEG machine in a heightened state of orgasm, having my brain waves read while I was in, extended orgasm. And so looking at, those results, it was like asked of me, like, my alpha waves basically shifted and my theta waves went really high, and gamma and beta started to shift in there. And we realized that that's what it kind of looks like when you're on a psychedelic. And so it really offered this opportunity for me to realize that, and this was in 2017 when I did the brain research with a neuroscientist who was also a shaman, Dr. Juan Acosta Urquidi, who has since passed away. But his research was researching shamans and their people who they were supporting with their brainwaves. So he was like, wow, I get this with shamanic healings and theta healers. And here you are in this like
Wow.
Kundalini energy. And I'm like, yes. So I knew that there was something here. And this is
Mm-hmm.
currently what the bigger scope of my, if I don't even call it work, I just call it my purpose, like using that energy. So my
Mm-hmm.
own energy, my own orgasmic energy in my mind.
Yeah.
So when I'm working with somebody, that energy, it's energy, right? So I'm not in this
Right.
climax, but that energy is supporting other people to heal their bodies. They're doing their own.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I've studied William Reich, and he's done research similar, but he's also connected women to like a cable kind of a thing, and he showed that 4 women having an orgasm at the same time could actually ascend a light bulb. And so, because he was looking at the bioelectricity within the body, right? And so,
Amazing.
it's just so interesting when I keep hearing of these different research and to hear about yours.
Mhm.
I'm right now I'm teaching a yoni massage course, and one of the ladies, and I'm gonna do a screenshot of this and post it and share it.
Yeah.
One of the ladies had actually typed that um, she was doing the breath work that I taught, and so you can have orgasms without even being touched, right? So
Yeah.
she was doing this breath work that I taught in my yoni massage course, and what she noted in the Google Classroom was she started having convulsions from the waist up or the waist down, and then it felt like her body was a little paralyzed. So she stopped because she was in fear.
Mm.
And I was like, no, that actually happens. Like a lot of you were having a full body orgasm.
Right.
And sometimes it feels like the body does get paralyzed, but it's not really paralyzed. But I forget what you call it in English because I'm used to saying it and talking in Portuguese, but in Portuguese we call that tetania. I know
Mhm.
it's similar in English, like tetany or something like that, or
Atrophy? Or no, wait, no.
no, it's not atrophy. It sounds just like tetania, but I forget how to say it in English.
Mhm.
But when I've been doing the tantric massage and the breath work,
Uh-huh.
I've seen a lot of people with like their face might get like paralyzed, like this, or their hands like you can't move it.
Uh-huh.
And so, um, but this is like, and it happens because I had to explain to her there's different levels of orgasms and full body orgasms, and
Mhm.
so her body was reacting in that way, and so she was afraid that she's going to be paralyzed for the rest of her life, and I was like, you won't be paralyzed. Like, if you surrender and you
Mhm.
continue with the breath work,
Right.
you're going to actually get to a point where you're going to receive a level of orgasm that you never experienced in your life.
Mhm.
And so it's like, because again, we're not taught what orgasm is. We're not taught
No.
the different
No.
types of orgasms your
Mhm.
body can have. And we only think of one type of orgasm, right?
Right.
So,
Well, we talk about that all the time, right? There's like this idea that orgasm comes from penetrative sex, right? That's the
hmm
only way. And what orgasm is, we consider as a climax. And so I think really from the get-go, understanding that climax to me is not orgasm. Climax is the end result of of um, of contracting and not being able to contract anymore, and then releasing blood flow into the capillaries. Orgasm to me is the breath of God, and I say that all the time. It
yes,
is the energy. It is the frequency that runs through your nervous system, and it allows us to um, become magnetic. And when people talk about
right.
manifestation and healing, it's really that pleasure that you get and feel from that energy or that orgasmic energy that is doing all of the rewiring, the repatterning,
Right.
healing, because the
Exactly.
brain is suddenly starting to take in different messages and symbols. So
Hmm.
I'm like I know that we're like we just jumped right in.
I know. And I was just thinking, I was like, yeah, like this is how it is, right? And it's interesting when we're talking about the orgasm, because going on to men, and now when we're saying healing the divine masculine, everyone has masculine energy and
All of us.
everyone has feminine energy, right? We all have it, right? And so, but it's interesting because a lot of times, I don't work with a lot of men. I work mostly with women,
Mhm.
and that's been by choice. I've been kind of like waning off of the men that I work with. But when you talked about how you define orgasm, it's interesting because a lot of times men think that they're having orgasms when they're ejaculating, right?
Right,
And it's not to say that you can't or ejaculate and have an orgasm at the same time, but most men are ejaculating and not having orgasms.
right, right,
So,
right.
so I think that this is important for them to start understanding more about what their body can do. So I would love to have you talk to that, because I've had to tell men, a lot of times, because I do tantric massage and I do lingam massage, and I
Yes.
have done that on men, even though I'm waning off of that and just working more with women. But
Mhm,
I've done a lot of men come to me
mhm.
and having to educate them on the fact that you're ejaculating, but you're not having orgasm, and a lot of men haven't even felt full body orgasms.
Right, right. And so you and I both do very similar, parts to our practices, right? So I do sacred Tao pelvic healing work, which includes either lingam or yoni touch. So both views. And so oftentimes in those sessions, I've built a rapport. And when I'm working with people with lingams, what's going on, first of all, is that there's generally some kind of underlying, um, desire to like heal trauma, right? To really work
Mhm.
on regaining sensation in their bodies as well as their genitals, feeling confident because, our minds can really mess us up, um, and really coming back into feeling balanced, as well as things like, semen retention and just all around feeling sexual, being okay with the sexual desires that they have. So, but before I go into like orgasm, I think it's really beneficial to say kind of what energetics come with divine masculine and feminine energy. So, there's levels of this kind of divine energy, how I look at it. So like, um, when I think of like alchemical ascension to like connecting or integrating divine masculine and feminine, I think first of like what we look at as masculine, like what the qualities are that aren't elevated yet. And some of those qualities for that masculine energy might look like feeling rigid or powering over, or selfish, lack of trust, stress, controlling, um, delaying pleasure, perfectionism, competitiveness,
Oh
suspiciousness,
wow.
right? So these are kind of like the lower vibrations of the masculine energies that all of us might feel. And so oftentimes we will link that with somehow man, but all of us really have gone through all those kinds of feelings,
Mhm.
right? And so it's good to actually say some of the lower vibrations of the feminine energies, which might sound like
Yeah.
self-doubt, overindulging, martyrdom, lack of motivation, like saying things like screw it, feeling sloppy, addicted to like coming down, victimization, despair. So those are some of those
Mm,
lower vibrations. But as we start
right.
to do our healing work, as we start to really take away those layers. And how do you do your healing work when it comes to sexual healing? I'm specific to sexual healing, right? Because I'm not a therapist. I don't do cognitive therapy. I support people as a somatic sex educator. So I support them in using their body's own natural energy their sexual energy, which is also their creative life force energy, um, their pleasure centers, to activate, so that that energy, and teaching them to like feel it and come out. I call it blooming out of atrophy. So oftentimes
Mm-hmm.
we become numb when we've gone through something traumatic, or we've gone through
So true.
feeling these pieces. And so using your own body, your soma, learning how to center yourself, learning how to resource yourself, learning how to create a neurotic or sensual practice for yourself, and really start to elevate yourself in the higher vibrations of what it looks like to be in that divine masculine divine masculine energy, which could include feeling courageous and providing for being attentive to your partner, purposefulness, willpower, accomplishment, structure, planning, scientific analysis. These are all words that are, that we could apply to the divine masculine energy: transcendence,
Mm-hmm.
organized, results based, diligent. And we all need a little bit of that in our life.
Right.
Because if we're all just in this divine feminine flow, which I tend to be quite a bit into that divine feminine flow. I would say as I was younger, I was a tomboy, and I was more of like
Mm-hmm. Me too.
very masculine, and I still have that. And when that comes out, it can be a real joy, or it could be a real bitch. So
It's so interesting because I had always been very much in my masculine energy, right? Um, very much a tomboy as well. When I went to college, I mean, I never even wanted to do my hair. When I was in college and in high school, I'm wearing a baseball cap. I was doing like, the one braid down my, when I had hair. And I was wearing jeans all the time, or pants. I didn't like skirts or dresses. And it was so interesting because when I shaved my head about 11 years ago is when I actually became more feminine, which is crazy.
that is so
I shaved my
interesting.
head and I became more feminine. But
Yes.
was interesting, and it's not specifically what I started doing, but when I shaved my head, I became more conscious to not like try to look like a man. So then I started wearing bigger earrings, because before I wasn't wearing big earrings. So I started wearing bigger earrings.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I left the US and I was in India first and then South America, where it was hotter. So I just couldn't stand wearing pants. I would wear more dresses.
Mhm.
And not that those things define feminine energy, but because I started wearing bigger earrings, I started wearing more dresses. I think it made me become a little bit softer and like, oh, what's happening with my body? Like, I started noticing how things, or even people would react to me differently. And so, and then also, I guess because I was here and I started doing more spiritual work and just trying to learn how to be in that do,
Mhm.
and just kind of being in my essence, the feminine energy just started coming out more.
Mhm.
And so now I kind of notice that I am kind of like in that balance of the masculine and feminine, because I'm constantly doing, I have to get stuff done. Like,
Right.
I'm a one woman show, right? I'm doing everything on my job. I'm doing the advertising, I'm doing the marketing, I'm on the social media. I'm like also working, like, and so, but then I'm making a conscious effort to not do anything and just be. Go to the steam room, go to the sauna, allow myself to receive,
Yes.
so
Yes.
it's a
Yes.
conscious effort, you
I
know.
definitely feel like it's a deliberate effort, as we step into those high vibrations of the divine feminine. It feels like inclusiveness and sweetness, self embracing, receptivity, flow, mystery, creativity. Our intuitive centers open up. We feel collaborative, right? There's no competition.
Hmm.
We know our body. We feel gentle and trusting. And then,
Yes.
of course, we talk about like when we talk about healing the divine masculine and feminine, we're really talking about getting to that place of coming into nirvana or oneness, right? And I always
Yes.
say nirvana is beautiful, oneness is beautiful. I mean, we've all experienced, I think, oneness for even a split second, and it feels really fucking amazing. It's still, and And we might even feel it when we're climaxing. There's a stillness, right? They don't call it le petit mort for anything, the little death for anything,
Right.
because there's a piece of you that dies, right? And I experienced that actually in another with another experience when I, did buffo varius. I don't know if you ever heard of the sacred toad medicine,
I
right?
have, yeah. And I
Yeah.
did something similar, which they call combo here.
Sure. So they're two different. They're actually two different species.
Hmm.
So, um,
Right.
in my experience with bufo, there was that complete um, ego death, right? And so
Hmm.
we come into the space, with 5-MeO DMT. It took us into this different state. And when we talk about DMT, what happens is that that's secreted during orgasm as well, and during those heightened
Hmm.
states of sensation. So it's really important to see like the different places that you can attain that. So your body has all the things necessary to heal itself, and that is so
Yes.
important to know. Like, this is why I've continued to really explore my own sexuality and sensuality separate from partners, like having my own sensual practice, my erotic practice daily, because I don't want to rely on anybody else for my pleasure and my joy. Like, I am definitely um, the person who is taking 100% responsibility for my pleasure. So, this place of nirvana or oneness, it feels like safety, it feels like awareness. It feels like respect. Feels like balance, humble confidence, synergy, life force, clarity, potency, contentment, balance, open hearted. So, those are all the kind of
Hmm.
ways that we can describe this union of divine masculine, divine feminine energy. So, but when it comes to like people who identify as men and healing that part, the wounded part of their divine masculine, right? What I've noticed is that the common thread is that at some level of awareness, there's like shame around their genitals or their bodies, and self confidence is really low, and a lot of that
Mm.
from the societal conditioning, the religious conditioning, and even experiences that they've had in their life around like what a man is supposed to be, right? Like, we all know it. Like, all cultures have their own idea of what a man is supposed to do. Like, are you supposed to be the provider, the go go go, the strong one? And at some point, when men fall into that category and they go into that loop, I see so many men start to lose who they are, like who they are.
Hmm.
And then all of those lower vibrations, like isolating, rigidity, delaying their pleasure, goal over the process, construction, being forceful. I'm hearing a little feedback for it. Let's see if I can.
Yeah, I am too.
Let's see if I can turn this off. So with that kind of, you know, that kind of energy out there, what starts to happen is that that's what's being put out there in our world. That kind of um, lower vibration, and even in the divine masculine and the masculine energies that women have, we start to fall into that role too, and
Right.
especially, and I want to just say, like, I the feminist movement, although it hit strides, like it also hindered that energy.
I agree.
It's
I
like,
agree. I so agree.
and I am all about women's, rights, but I really do believe that, like, we didn't take anything away. We just added more onto our plate as women. So we were trying to like do all these things and we're exhausted. So the flow and balance within our own bodies shifted. I'm not talking about between men and women. I'm
Hmm.
talking about within our own bodies, that energy
I
shifted.
agree.
Our natural biological state is the divine feminine calls, divine masculine responds energetically. This has nothing to do
Hmm.
with sexual orientation and preferences. This is just biological energy. We see it on the planet in all mammalian species, right? And so,
Hmm.
as our genetics start to shift and our makeup starts to shift, you know, we're starting to take on more and more roles that um, without letting go of stuff. So we start to become more rigid as women. And so the roles that, the masculine takes on starts to shift as well. And so there's this uneven balance there. And so there's like idea of like identity crisis that comes up. And I see this a lot
Mm-hmm.
happening. Like, men are like, well, I'm not sure what to do. And I'm not talking just cisgendered men. I'm talking, I think a lot of men have gone through some kind of um, crisis when it comes to what the roles that they're supposed to be doing. Like who actually
Yeah.
defines divide, what they're supposed to be doing as a man
Mm-hmm.
or woman. So let me just check. I have some questions here. Uh, okay, Ankara has some things to add here. Sure, Ankara.
Okay.
I'm so curious if can you come onto YouTube and type it in the chat, or because we're live, or would you prefer? Oh, there you are, Ankara.
Yeah, I would love that because, and I was just saying here as well, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask or any comments that they'd like to share, because I'd love for this to be interactive and for people to be able to comment. So I would love that if they can come onto YouTube with the questions or type a message to you in the back
Yeah.
channel there. That way it flows.
Hold on a second.
Okay, and I have an Alexis here on YouTube that has a question. Okay, thank you. She hears.
Oh,
How
hold
do
on,
you
Ankara,
go ahead?
sorry, Ankara, I can definitely hear you. Are you able to come onto YouTube and or type your question or your comment in the message for me so that I can read it out loud? So, because we're doing two
Yeah,
simultaneous um, YouTube recording
lives.
lives, sorry, lives as well as Clubhouse. Um, and so it's really hard for audiences on YouTube to hear. Um,
Yeah,
so go ahead and type your comment, and I will read it out loud. It would be wonderful, Ankara. I
that'd
would
be
love to
perfect.
hear from you because you have so much insight. And I see that there's a question.
That'd be great.
Hmm.
Yeah, so Alexis says, how do you assist a man in navigating his shame without further adding to it?
Hmm.
That's a great question.
Oh, that is a beautiful question. Well, it really depends. Like if you're in an intimate relationship with a man in a partnership, a lot of it is really understanding your communication skills, right? So communication is
Hmm.
everything here. Um,
Yes.
navigating shame. Shame's going to come up in different ways. It's going to come up. You're going to first have to support them in noticing when it comes up. What happens to their body? Do they disassociate? Do they freeze? Do they, um, get angry and aggressive? So
Hmm.
first is acknowledging that shame actually exists. And then part of it is, coming into other than connection that's other than sexual. A lot of times around men have a lot of shame around sexuality. And so this is where um, this is where I would say the best way to navigate this is to have compassion for that person, to have true conversations
Hmm.
before you even have sex, like out of the bedroom. Like don't go into the bedroom trying to heal shame. Like
Hmm.
before you even get into spaces that are intimate like that, really allow yourself um, an opportunity for for the two of you to communicate and listening, being a great listener to actually hear what that person has to share with you is essential.
Hmm.
Is essential.
Yeah, I think those are so important. Um, Hopefully, Carl got to write a message to you or something, or come on
He
here.
said he wasn't able to get
Um,
onto YouTube. Do you mind if I unmute him for a second and listen to what he has to say?
yeah, let me just say one more thing to Alexis, and then we would love to hear that.
Sure.
Um, Yeah. So, so I completely agree with everything Lucia said. That's really, all of those points are really, really important. It's important to be able to have the communication. And I think if you're coming from a good and a loving, sincere place, then they'll know that you're not trying to just shame them, right? And so everything is, we really know everything is not what you say, and it's how you say it, right? So it's being able to say what you want to communicate in the most lovingly way, to make sure all of your needs are getting met. So I just kind of wanted to add that on as well. So I hope that helps, Alexa. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and
Sure.
see.
Ankara, let me mute you real quick. Oh, Ankara, let's see.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Ankara, what did you have to share with us?
Hey, Lucia. I know you're broadcasting on multiple different platforms, so appreciate the patience. But I wasn't able to get on YouTube. I wanted to talk about the original shame for the divine masculine and sort of like the point of origin that all began with, at least in my personal experience, and that was with the circumcision of my penis when I was born, against my will.
Yes.
I feel like that is, I realized after doing a lot of the shadow work that was the root and origin of the shamefulness that men experience sexually, and that experience did not allow me my own personal choice, and I felt like that it was a big mistake. At least, well, my mother probably unknowingly chose that for me, so I would have preferred to have that decision left to me to make.
Beautiful. So
And that's a really good point. If I could just share when I was just listening to him, because with the circumcision, it's genital mutilation,
totally
right? And the thing is, when they circumcise you, they're cutting off so many nerve endings, so you feel less pleasure as well. And it's something that I feel like more and more people need to be educated on.
Yes.
So that parents can stop doing that to their kids, because there's no need to have circumcision. There's no need.
There's no
You can
need.
clean the lingam properly. It's just learning how to clean it, right? With the extra skin.
Right. And, it's really unfortunate that, I really believe through certain types of organized religion and shaming people around self-pleasure and masturbation as one of the reasons why, penises were circumcised. And there's really no need, like you said, Renee, to do that. When, just to address Ankara, first of all, I want to say thank you so much, Ankara, for that vulnerability. I don't think enough men actually realize like what has happened to their genitals. And if you have a penis, what you'll see is two different colors, first of all. And you'll see like the head of your penis will be like usually a pinker color, and the rest will be the color that you were born with. And what you'll notice is the head of your penis is actually it's calloused. And a penis that's uncircumcised is actually mucilaginous. So it's like soft and it's very sensitive. And so when you have a traumatic experience like mutilation, and we're going to call it what it really is, genital mutilation. It's as if the clitoral hood was cut off. And so that is what it's likened to. And even the inner labia. So when you think about that, it's a tragedy, because right off the bat, the sensitivity level of being able to feel more sensitive goes away. And this translates through our nerve endings, through our whole demeanor, right? And so if you have a penis, that idea of like boys not being sensitive or men not being sensitive, think that I don't think it's far-fetched in saying when you are born and you suddenly have a traumatic experience happen to you, that you're going to harden up. And literally that is what happens. The head of the penis becomes not calcified, callous, and you feel less sensation. So that when, when people who are, cisgendered heterosexual people are trying to like produce orgasm in a clitoris, in a person with a clitoris, that they don't actually realize how sensitive a clitoris is. So Ankara, I mean, I could go into that forever. And one thing I want to say with that is I have found wonderful results as a somatic sex educator, sexological body worker, in being able to do what's called scar tissue remediation and foreskin remediation. So you can, through practice, start to, if you have some foreskin left, start to stretch and bring the foreskin back to the head, as much as possible. So I do work with that kind of trauma healing, and another effective place in this is microdosing during sessions, because it opens up the nerve endings, the capillaries, and the process shifts into like learning how to re-love that part of your body. And like and I have castor oil. I make a special blend of castor oil with calendula and a couple of different ointments in there. And if you have had a circumcision, you can actually do this yourself, at home. So I want to say
that is amazing work.
Isn't that amazing?
Oh, sorry. That is amazing work. Like just listening to you, like I didn't know that could be done. Like you could work on like, doing the work with the skin to bring it out and kind of stretch it to kind of cover it again. Wow, I did not know that. That's amazing.
It's a process. Okay. It's a process.
But I do know from, when I was doing the lingam massage, when I was learning it, I was studying it. My teacher did say that it could help the penis grow a little, that it could actually grow. He said grow, he didn't say a little. But it was funny because my partner at the time, he was also studying tantric massage. And I was giving him tantric massage, like doing a lingam massage fairly regularly. And I do remember at one point I was like, your lingam grew. And I was like, is this true? Like, I didn't think that could happen. And so now that you said this, because I had even read, somewhere, oh, it can't grow. And I was like, well, maybe I just imagined that. Maybe because he was like, yeah, this does seem bigger. So I'm like, maybe we imagine that. I don't know. But now that you're saying this, even with just the skin, it all makes sense, because even if you could do that with the skin, it makes sense that the lingam itself can stretch, because like with the lingam massage techniques that we do, there's a lot of elongating, right? And stretching. So it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, you wanna be really careful, like when you're doing lingam massage, if you're over elongating, what I noticed is you don't want to break too much, tear too much of the tendons or the tissue, because the penis will become softer. Like you want to keep that intact. And instead, I work more on like blood flow with lingam massage, rather than I will pull. There's different ways to pull, right? But that's to bring the blood flow in. So a lot of men who are worried about size, please don't. Like, please work more on blood flow. As far as
right. And we definitely do that. Even though we're doing the stretching, the elongating, we're working on the blood flow. And there's specific techniques that I teach in my class where we're pressing so you can hold the blood and keep the blood circulating. And it's not just elongating. We do many different, I teach in my class like 7 different strokes, different techniques to help, And so it's important because, we've learned that to not overstretch any tendons or anything like that. So that is important to know. That is important for men at home to not be like, let me lengthen this and,
Absolutely. So I guess to kind of come full circle with Ankara's beautiful share around, where some of the deep wounds, the divine masculine come in for people with lingams. From the very get-go with having circumcision, that can transcend too into like adolescence and having that like got to be a man, like anger, and then continuous indoctrination that goes along with that. So yeah, be tender to all of our people with lingams, because they're, especially if they've been circumcised. There is a question, Renee, in the
Yeah.
chat by Albert, who's in
Okay.
the audience. He says, I know the desire I have to have a sacred spiritual connection with a woman during sex. How do you know if a woman is also having that experience or just normal intercourse? Great question. Great question.
Yes, great question.
Ooh, such a good question. So I'm gonna give you a perspective from my perspective, divine feminine, because
Mhm.
I've had like literally the past 19 years of training my body to feel higher elevated sensations of orgasm in my body. Now, in the process, the byproduct of that is a deep connection to the divine
Mhm.
energy, to source. So in those heightened states, it feels in my body like very open, feels like I don't feel tight. I actually am very relaxed, and
Mhm.
I'm almost tingling. And so when I've had these divine unions with a partner, um, it's it's not like a flailing kind of thing. It's not like I'm flailing and coming and climaxing. Really, what it feels like to me is stillness.
Yeah.
And and the two of us, a lot of people are like, they feel like the highest form of union is penis and vagina, and getting to that elevated state in that sex act. I'll tell you, it is not the easiest way to do it.
Right.
Because you have a penis inside of a vagina. First of all, those sex parts are not homologous. The clitoris and the penis are homologous. I think the grandest way to feel a heightened experience really is to learn how to stroke a clitoris. If you know how to touch a person's clitoris, and you activate your nerve endings in your fingertips and you stroke their clitoris, and you start to focus on their energy, how you know if they are having that experience is you put your attention on them and you start to feel
Mhm.
the energy. And if you feel that rising Kundalini energy, you can feel it in your body. And
Yes.
match that energy. You are a mirror to the divine feminine.
Yes.
That's really how
Yes.
I've learned it. Um, mhm. Yes, she had multiple orgasms. I didn't write. Usually that happens, Albert, like, women can be multiclimactic for sure. And
Mhm.
when I think of orgasmic, I think of it as flow, because an orgasm really is contraction in a certain number of seconds. So a clitoris can
Mhm.
actually contract endlessly. If you actually put your attention and relax your body enough, the clitoris will contract and contract and contract. For those of you, I'm just going to grab my clitoris. If you don't know what a clitoris looks like out there, this is a jigsaw model of, of
That's a huge one.
it's huge. The clitoris is about that big inside, and it has as much erectile tissue as a penis for the most part. So just because we're really only seeing about that much underneath the hood,
Mhm.
the rest of that, the clitoris is internal. So, one of the ways that we feel and how the nerve endings work is that, with 8,000 nerve endings, pressure sensitive nerve endings on the clitoris, and like thousands of nerve endings on the fingertip, that kind of connection is how you're going to feel the best,
Yes.
because and the penis and clitoris aren't necessarily connecting with each other. We have 4,000 nerve endings, and the vagina has no pressure sensitive nerve endings. So it's really difficult to actually get the energy flow between a penis and a vagina. But a fingertip and a
Mhm.
clitoris, or even breath work and having genitals next to each other, works pretty well. Um, yes, Albert shares that he felt like her body was being shocked with the electricity. She was literally vibrating. That is really how it feels to be in that heightened state.
Mhm.
And oftentimes when I've been in the most heightened states, I've actually been in complete stillness, except for my clitoris,
Mhm.
which is contracting and my genitals are engorging, I'm breathing, I may be intoning, like, I'm feeling the energy moving. And there's no doubt that there's a deep connection. And a person with the lingam, if we're doing this like heteronormative, like man woman talk right now, you can feel what she feels absolutely
Right.
in your body. And so even having those states of higher consciousness together for a moment are really beautiful. But I like to always say with that, what we can say is, you know, the party is right below nirvana. So
Hmm.
you really want to come back.
Right.
You really want to be willing
So,
to come back and have some fun.
hmm so let me ask you, so because we're kind of coming, like the time just goes by so fast on
Oh, yeah.
these YouTube lives because they're only an hour. Clubhouse, we could go on forever, right? And it's so much easier. But let me ask you, and if anybody on here on YouTube or Clubhouse, we can kind of keep going after, right? But on YouTube, if there's anyone that have any questions or just on either place that you want to ask or any comments, we have about 9 minutes. While people are asking or writing questions,
Mhm.
can you give maybe like 3 or 5 tips or something to what people can do to heal their masculine, the divine masculine within them?
Yeah, well, absolutely. So I think the first tip or suggestion I would do is really to start looking at the places of relationship with fathers and grandfathers.
Mm,
So oftentimes these set imprints of what the divine masculine looks like is an imprint that we learned as young kids or maybe didn't learn as young children. Maybe there wasn't a father figure present or that divine masculine energy present. And so really to kind of look at that piece and see how it shows up in your body. You have to
right.
understand what you're working with first. So absolutely that. The second tip would be my favorite somatic sex educators go to is always to do the body scan. So the right side of your body
Hmm.
is associated with the masculine or the divine masculine. So when you're doing a body scan, meaning you're putting complete attention on each part of your body separate and without judgment or creating a narrative, you're just noticing the sensation, what you're feeling in your body. So as you start to actually notice, what I found is that people have noticed that maybe there's numbness on parts of their right side, and maybe they've noticed more sensation on their left side. So starting to
Hmm.
kind of actually know what that feels like in your body, like, because it's all energy, right? So what does it feel like? Take a moment. If you get angry, what does that feel like? Where do you feel it? How do you
Right.
notice that? And I guess the third tip would be really to start, you know, relearning, relearning what it means to have, sensual gratification. Because sensual gratification is what adds the pleasure. It adds the fun part
Mhm.
to our sex lives. And so as we start to actually
Yes.
have that pleasure, it's the pleasure that's going to be the healing agent. And so even as a man, if you're working, 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 and you're in that like go, go, go rat race, or if you're if you identify as a woman, you're also doing that go, 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 go rat race. What's happening is that there's a very low vibration frequency in that divine masculine energy. Like you've been taught to like produce at a level that
Hmm.
like doesn't match up with the divine feminine flow. So you're not
Right.
flowing. You think you're flowing because you're producing, but it actually, it what's happening is that it's blocking, especially for people who identify as women. We don't generally work that way. Our minds don't flow like that. We when we go against our natural sense of intuition and well-being, and we drop into these lower vibrations of like, you gotta get it. It takes a lot longer, or we'll get it, and then we're still not fulfilled, right? We're like, oh, I'm a millionaire, but
Yes.
I'm not connected to my sexuality. It's like, well, or
Mm-hmm.
if you're, if you have a penis, it's like, I'm exhausted. I can never please my partner. I can't. And then suddenly there's this like existential crisis somewhere between 40 and 50, which happens as like your spiritual journey is shifting. And suddenly you're like looking towards this younger energy to kind of complete you. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
we call, midlife crisis. And it's like, it's kind of like,
Yes.
you want to prevent that. Um, because what's happening is like, there's this doubt, like there's hormone depletion. People with penises aren't always getting erections. They're feeling like something's wrong with them. So then they start to like search outside of themselves, or if they're in a relationship, they start looking at, both people do. It's not just men or women. It's like this happens often.
Mm-hmm.
We're not actually complete with the balance in ourselves. We start looking outside of ourselves for this. So I
Right.
would say really do the deep dive in understanding what pleasure looks like for you. So those would be my 3 tips.
Oh, beautiful. I loved it. Thank you so much. That was great.
Mhm.
um, and I love doing these lives, because we learn so much,
Mm,
and there's just so much to learn, and I'm just amazed at all of this. So this is really good. Can you let everybody know, let my people know that's here on YouTube or Facebook, and who's going to watch it later, because this live will be available later on YouTube. So it stays on this link. If you have the link, you can watch it later, or you can Google Prandhara Prem, and you'll find this on YouTube, so you can watch it later. Anybody who's on YouTube and watching it, or Facebook, share this as well with somebody who you think would benefit from it. This was a really great talk. And so, Lucia, you want to share anything that's coming up, any events, or how people get a
sure.
hold of you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that opportunity, Renee. So you can find me on Instagram at Luscious Lucia Pavone. So my name that you see up here with Luscious in front of it. I'm on Facebook at Luscious. You can type in Luscious Lucia Pavone. You can go to my website, www.luciapavone.net. And I do have an upcoming online course that is self-paced called Rise of the Divine Masculine. And RISE is an acronym for Rise in Sensual Excellence. And so with that, I'll let people know if you stay, just follow me on IG or follow me, there's a way to become part of my mailing list when you go to my website. And also you can just reach out to me, through email. There's like links to schedule one-on-one sessions. So I'm very accessible right now, but as I'm on that path to glory, it's
Listen,
kind
if I had a penis, I would be contacting you. I mean,
I
I
would,
guess not just if I
yeah,
had a penis, right? I mean, you do work with anyone, not just those with penises.
I have people who have flown in from different parts of the country because we've worked online, one-on-one sessions. And then when it's time to actually do hands-on healing work, they will fly out for a week-long intensive and we'll do
Hmm.
this incredible deep dive of sacred pelvic healing work. So,
Oh,
I'll tell you,
beautiful.
it is. And it's such a special tailor to you experience where,
Hmm.
it's also about understanding how to be sensual in your life and have fun in your life. So,
Yes.
Renee, I'm
You
so
too can be
grateful to you.
sensual.
Yes. Our sensuality is fun and healing. As we know, it's like when we look cross culturally, like so many cultures have different ways of rituals and rites of passage. Particularly here in the United States, we don't. So I think that there's an extra suffering here of like what it means to
So
be
true.
high masculinity. And so I really believe that as we start to come into our own ancestral knowing, our roots, like doing our
Hmm.
ancestral healing, Renee, is really important. And this is where like psilocybin comes in. This is where orgasm comes in,
Hmm.
relearning. So when we do talks like this is how we change the world. We heal ourselves and then we be,
Right.
and then what happens when we're in love with ourselves? The planet heals.
Exactly. Exactly. We're going to have to do another one on psilocybin because I would love to talk more about that
Do it.
and, go into more about the work because I don't work with that. I have used myself, like I've done some micro dosing. I've gone up to 3 grams.
Mhm.
And so, but I don't work consistently, and it's not something I work with my clients, but I would love to kind of like explore and talk more into that. So we'll look at maybe coming on again, or even just doing something on Instagram or whatever. Oh, Alexis says yes, please. Yeah, so people would love to talk about that. So guys, follow Lucia on Instagram at Luscious Lucia Pavone, which is the same as her website, but is .net. So follow her, check her out, check out what she has going on. And listen, I am so excited. I just decided to put out my retreat in February. I've had so many people ask me, when is your next retreat? When is your next retreat? And I just wasn't doing it. I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I was just tired. I was just focusing on doing my self-care, right? And then I received a message where a lady who's doing documentary, she's like, I want to do a documentary on your retreat, on you in Brazil. And she's like, I'm coming out in February. And I was like, that is exactly what I wanted to do, my retreat for Imanja's birthday, to celebrate the Orisha Imanja. So I'm like, you know what? That just tells me I have to do it. And so, but I was like, okay, I don't know if I'm gonna get people because it's last minute. Like, it's like 3 months to go. But I literally put out the flyers, and I got 5 people already send their deposit. And I'm like, wow, in a week. So that just says that it's supposed to happen, and that this is going to be an amazing retreat. So if you want to come to Brazil and do some like intense work, like for real, it's January 29th to February 5th. We're going to be working on bringing out that inner goddess, right? Helping you to learn how to just be more confident, more sensual. But we're going to be getting into a lot of the Afro-Brazilian dance, capoeira, drumming. You're going to take drumming lessons. You're going to take capoeira lessons. You're going to do Afro-Brazilian dance lessons. We're going to be doing tantric work, yoni breathing, ovarian breathing, yoni yoga, like all kinds of stuff. And you're going to come back like, and not to mention beautiful beaches, relaxing on the beaches. So you're going to come to Brazil, and actually you're not going to want to go back. But let me not say that because I don't want to scare you and be like, oh my God, I got to move to Brazil now. But you're going to love it so much. But you're going to go back like feeling more confident, more powerful, more connected to you, your inner you, So I'm really excited to be offering this and putting it out. So come on out.
I love that.
Make it manifest. Yeah. I only got 5 more spots because I'm going to do 10 maximum. So listen, if you're interested, come on out. Then in June, this is still in the works right now, I'm actually going to be doing Union Mystica, the divine alignment of the masculine and feminine. And that's going to be a retreat in Mexico. It's going to be in the Tulum area along the Quintana Roo, Maya Riviera. So it's either going to be like in Tulum. I think it's going to be in Playa del Carmen, which is a property we're looking at. So that's going to be in June. So come on out June 23rd to 29th. That's going to be for everyone, men and women.
That sounds beautiful. I love Tulum. It's one of my favorite places in the world. So beautiful.
I know. I love Tulum. I was like, I can't wait to go back and buy the jewelry there too. And
and go to swim in the cenotes.
And the cenotes, yes, the beautiful cenotes. So Mexico is going to be my first retreat, full retreat that I am leading outside of Brazil. I have participated in other retreats in the U.S., as a guest facilitator, and in Bali and different places. But this is going to be another one that I'm putting on. So I'm excited. Because I've only been leading, like doing a full shebang in Brazil. So, but
let me know if you want a facilitator for the divine masculine to support you. and teach with you.
Oh, let's definitely plan one for the future. I do have someone that I'm doing this with in Mexico, but we can definitely plan one because my goal is to do 4 retreats a year. So that's my goal.
We'll talk with Lady Holly too, because we're on that path. So let's do a little behind the scenes, like working.
The 4 of us. Oh my God! If the 4 of us do it,
I lead a retreat in
listen.
Sicily. It's like we're like, do we go to Sicily? Where do we go? We're going to Egypt.
I'm down for Sicily.
Sicily
Ooh,
is like
Egypt.
Yeah, Egypt will. Well, I mean, this is going to be more of like a spiritual trip combined, probably. But you know, Sicily is my ancestral homeland, and that is like, it's kind of like the melting pot of the Mediterranean. So it has so many different ancient cultures embodied in that island. So I know it's part of Italy now, but Sicily is anything but Italian. Like it's Italian, but
right?
It's different. It's
right.
Different. My roots are.
I've only been to Italy. I've only been to Rome. So, but I would love. Yes, I'm down. Put me down.
Yay. So, I want
anywhere really. I just love to travel.
Yeah. I love to travel too. I would love to, and I appreciate you so much with all that you're doing. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, I thank you so much for coming on. All in divine timing, yes, because we talked, and I haven't been on Clubhouse enough, and I'm just looking here at this Clubhouse because my Clubhouse is here on my iPad, right? Yeah. So it's charging, so you can't really see it, and I keep kind of looking over every now and then to see, but I haven't been on Clubhouse in a while, but I need to get back on. I am so grateful because I've made some great connections on Clubhouse, like with you. I mean, it's just such a great community, and I'm just so sad that I haven't been on it so much because we've had some really great conversations. I met some amazing people. We had some great talks, so it's just nice. I need to get back on it. It's just, I'm doing a lot. I'm like, I can't be everywhere.
I know. How do you feel about, do you want to come on for a few minutes and just do a debrief on Clubhouse, see if anybody has questions? I'm going to go on and do that. You don't have to, but.
Okay. I am starving. My food came late and it just came. So I'll listen and I'm going to eat. But, and I do have some stuff that I need to do. So I might just listen for a bit while I eat, and then I'm exhausted, so I'm going to sleep early tonight. So
beautiful. No
but yeah, I do have to show the Clubhouse love. So I'll keep this on, and I'm just going to eat and just listen to you
there for a short time. And then for those of you in the Yoniverse Club, there's Wombs Day. It's Wombs Day. So we go into the womb space on Wombs Day in the Universe. So after this particular experience in Clubhouse, the room is done, I'll be transferring over, talking about the womb space.
Okay.
So
awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you once again. And we're going to close off here on YouTube. Thank you, everyone who came. Thank you once again, Lucia. Yes, I got so much love for you and Lady Holiday.
Lady Holly,
so we're gonna close out here, and yes, and close it out a little bit on Clubhouse. All right, love you guys.
Love you too.
Bye. Thank you again.